All right. It is that time again for Ask RC Apologist number 96. That's right, folks. We're kicking it here. We're coming at you live. We're coming to do the whole shebang. But anyways, no, seriously, welcome to Ask RC Apologist, the show where we try to make sure to answer your questions, theological wise or even the personal wise. We make sure to do what we can and do what we must in order for the human species to survive, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, that being said, we want to just make it clear that, we're just chilling. Now, let's go ahead and get to this. Before we get into the show, we want to show how, for those who are watching, because it says we have 3 or 4 people that are watching right now, how can you ask a question? That's the question we're asking ourselves. Now, there's 3 ways you can ask questions. Number 1, you can submit your question in the live chat, and you'll know where the live chat is if you see the phrase cheesehead in that chat area. That's where why that's there. I decided to put that there just so I can mention that in the show. But that being said, the second question or way, by the way, if you need to look over these for a repeat, they're in the description of this stream. So feel free to always look in that to show or know how to ask a question. Second way, DM me on social media or my email for the link to participate and join in this fun and interesting ordeal. Okay, why am I sounding creepy? Continue! Number 3, Discord questions. We have a Discord server. So if you go to the Discord for Ask RCA questions, as well as off-air chats to join our Discord, we have the Discord set up there, and you may, feel free to pop in there, pop in, and skibidi-babbidi-boo. We'll see where that goes. All right. I try to remember. Who am I just sounded like there for a second? I don't know. I need to get out of this before it freaks me out. All right. But yes, got my pills on hand. Do I have... no, I'm going to need to grab some tissue, though, for whenever we get... Because I'm getting a little congested here. And I'm already sending a couple of links to people who are going to need to be in here. Let's see here. Where were the... Religious Fanboy wanted the link, so we're going to get him. And that's the other thing. Again, if y'all want the link, DM me and we'll get it. And White Engine has also been given the link. Also, shout out to my boy Metal Minister, who is it's his birthday today. So he's mentioned to give him a shout out, and so I have given him the shout out. Oh man, I need to hold up. I need to get myself a tissue. And I'm going to continue to do so as I get the tissue while rambling and mumbling about random things. Because that is what people like me do as we walk from one room to the next. And as we do so, then we put on our... Okay, dear Lord. I'm wearing a robe that's enough to be a dress at this point because it's just long and making things uncomfortable for me to try to move around the place. Okay. There, hopefully I didn't bore y'all. Oh my, I am going to need... I'm going to need some kind of medication. I've been feeling a little off today. What's even interesting is that along with me being off, like I woke up this morning thinking it was Sunday. I don't know why and I don't know how, but it was, I got out my church clothes. I got out the good old Christian hymnals on my phone while I was showering. And then the next thing I knew, I look at the calendar and I see it was Friday. I'm like, huh. Well, I'm going insane. There's evidence right there. So, well, what can you do? What can you do? Oh, sorry. So we have, hold up. Let me, for goodness sake. There we go. Welcome to the show, Religious Fanboy, who has just joined as our first guest. All right. So that being...
Oh, sorry. Hi. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. And I see, Ken McCracken, Rob of Sentinel is about to start a debate on another channel about Old Testament laws and Christianity. I did see that, and I'm going to have to take a look at it at some point. Catholic Traditionist says link Twitter to me. Well, it depends. Let's see. Jack, or Catholic Traditionalist, I can't just tweet it on a public tweet where anyone can see it, because then that's how porn bombers and snipers occur. I'll email it to you unless you know how to DM me on Twitter, which is able to easily be done with, let me see if I could pull up a profile of someone else. Matter of fact, let's use Metal Minister since it's his birthday. And he's been able to do it before. Now, let's go to here. Let's see. All right. So right here, now when you go to some of them, depending on what you have, you'll have different options. But right here, for example, you have a thing that says message. So that means I can send a direct message to Metal Minister. So that I couldn't find on Catholic Traditionalists. Wasn't available on there. Unless you could also then go to my place where I do have this option on mine, and you can message me, and we'll see what happens there. So that's the only way that's going to happen on Twitter. Otherwise, we'll just have to do it via email. Because we tried this one last time on Twitter, and that didn't work out. And I'm not going to just give it out in the public, because that's how, again, porn bombers, trolls, people that just come in saying the N-word over and over again, come in. And they do that to try to get the video and my channel taken down. So I'm not going to just simply tweet it. Now, if you can direct message me on Twitter, that will be perfect. Catholic Traditionalists, are you listening to me? I just explained the whole thing on the Twitter concept and why I can't just simply tweet it to you, and how you can direct message me, and why I can't direct message you. So I'm just going to email it to you, apparently. All right. That being said, welcome all of y'all that are watching. So let's see here. Debate about to start. I'm not that interested in the topic. I'm guessing his opponent has some views on keeping Old Testament laws for Christians. Yeah, like I found that the guy followed me. I don't know who this person is, but might be an interesting individual that he's going to debate. Anyways, that being said, we're going to first, before we get to the Discord questions, by the way, if y'all are watching and tuning in, send in your questions in the YouTube live chat, as I'm about to get Catholic Traditionalist in here. Okay, how do you... I have to go for the right... All right, there it is. Link. All right. And then we Control V it. Get on there. All right, it's been sent to you. And once we get enough of them in here, especially like Christians and apologists like that, then I'm going to actually have a chance to go over the this email that was sent to us from a Black Hebrew Israelite that was getting all into it in the chat during one of the Ask RC Apologist shows. Now, that being said, all right. Oh, first, let's see. John 8:12 says, I remember you saying something about inspiring philosophy espousing heresy, unless I'm mistaken. What is the most heretical belief? And as a result, do you recommend people not support him? I mean, as far as like his stuff, I don't think there was really much of a heresy that was coming from him, unless there was like this issue that hell is not really this place of, like, it's basically that hell is God's love that is surrounding these non-believers. That seems to have been his teaching of hell, is that what hell really is the teaching that uh, God's presence is strongly there in front of unbelievers. That seems to be what he goes on about. Catholic traditionalist, I emailed you already, so check your email unless you keep changing it, because what I got is catholics777@gmail.com. So I sent it to you. Matter of fact, I have the receipt if you want to see it, but I sent it. All right. Anyways. But yeah, like then the thing that we got over in an argument about was that he doesn't think cussing is sinful or unchristian. He thinks that you can do whatever you want. In fact, when I asked him, because I was basically having a problem with someone else cussing, and I was getting his opinion, and when I mentioned it, he said his response was literally, quote, "Don't effing do it then." And then he just laughed about it and thinks that there's nothing in the Bible that says cussing is a sin or says that the F word is sinful or anything along those lines, even though I went to show him some of these scholars that point out that the behavior and the mindset of the cultural words like the F word and the S word and all these do actually fit the biblical condemnation of it in Ephesians 5:4 and other verses. So, I mean, I to me, there's just a lot of problems that I've had with him on that, but I'm still subscribed to him, and I still utilize his content to go engage with certain things. But as far as some of the theological issues, I think that they are very problematic, and I think these are things that need to be addressed. All right. Let's take a look at some of y'all's questions only on the Discord. Let's see here. Okay. Davidson 1873 says, "What will we have in heaven? Will we have what we have on earth, like car and airplanes and TVs and such? Will we have sex or relationship? Will we have children?" Well, as far as the Bible says, like, we don't really know all that's happened. All it knows is that there's not going to be any sorrow, any pain that's on there. We are, so that's pretty much what we're just given. Like, there's nowhere in it that says something along the lines of that, we're going to have kids or we're going to have sex in there. I don't see anywhere in Scripture where it calls for that or has that, or even but that was the view of the early church fathers when they began depositing theories of what would it be like in heaven. There's just nothing there about that. So that we're just given what we know, and what we know is that there won't be any sorrow, it'll be happiness, and we are living eternal in heaven. So that seems to be the only thing that we're given of, really, concerning that. Okay. Stepper asks, how confronting would it be to know that the Ugaritic god El and Baal had some influence developing Yahweh's character in the Old Testament? Oh, that would be very confronting and conflicting, which is why I don't believe that El and Baal had some kind of influence on Yahweh's character in the Old Testament. I just don't see anywhere where any of these other, Elohim, if that's what we're going with, if any of these figures had any effect on Yahweh. I don't buy into what some of the far out liberal sort of scholars take on this position concerning ancient Near Eastern studies. I tend to be agreeing more along the lines with Dr. Curid, a bit on what Heiser holds to, though not too much. Walter Kaiser, Tremper Longman III, John Walton, and various others. So, that being said, I mean, I don't think there's really any really influence that they had, and so therefore we aren't faced with a confronting vote in that case. All right. So thank you for that question, Stepper. All right. Wolves are cool. Have you ever fasted before? No, I haven't. I tried. I want to try, but however, due to the fact that I am on epilepsy medication, that medication requires that I have food in my stomach. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And if it happens again, if I have a seizure, then I lose my license. I lose my driver's license for a few months, and therefore I don't have a job, and therefore I just have a lot of problems to deal with at that point. Anyways, that being said, thank you for your question, Will. So cool. All right. So keep your questions coming, and we'll get to y'all in the live chat soon. But now we're going to tune ourselves over into the chat that's inside here. We're going to start with Religious Fanboy. And again, it's a first come, first served order. So the order that you come in is the order that it comes out. So that being said, let's head on over to Religious Fanboy with his question. Fanboy, what is up? What is your question?
I was just curious about kind of some of the old. I've recently finished reading through the first 5 books of the Bible, specifically Deuteronomy.
Okay.
I finished reading, and there was, I can't quite remember the verses. If I find them, I'll put them in the Hangout chat. But I was just kind of wondering if there would be like certain. We get talked about lustful sin and sexual sin, and
okay,
and like the way the rules were set up or described in Scripture, there were like different like punishments involving whether it happened in the town or outside of the town. And I was just wondering if there would be like specific significance of that. I think there might be, but I was wondering what your opinion was.
Well, I'm confused. I'm confused. Like, what are you talking about exactly?
Is it okay if I ask the question later? Because I've been having a hard time finding the passage again.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So in that case, then we go on over to Catholic Traditionalist with his question.
Okay. Am I being heard? Am I coming in loud and clear? Good. Yep. Okay, great. All right. Here's my question. Most Christians believe that God is above the laws that govern the universe. Which is why he could walk on water or rise from death or do the many miracles that he did. However, Muslims claim their God, Allah, is limited in what he can do within the universe, which is why they claim he cannot exist as a man. Mormons also believe their God is limited in that he is subject to the natural laws of the universe, and in fact, they believe he's a product of the universe itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for all of you. I'm of course a Catholic, and I'm guessing most of you are Protestants.
Well, this is Ask Us the Apologist, so the question's only going to be limited to me on this.
Okay. Well, are any of those in the chat room, or I'm talking about the YouTube chat, are they able to also respond? Or
well, they can put their comments and thoughts in, but as far as like how the show goes, this is Ask Us the Apologist, so to help, that's the whole thing of this, so that way that it's not just drawn out to everyone else, as well as we get other people who have other questions later on down the road instead of just focusing and narrowing down on one person.
Okay. Well, my question to you then is this. Do you believe God is capable of making a round square if he so chooses to do so?
Do I believe it's possible that God can make a round square if he chooses to do so?
Correct.
Okay. I think it's definitely possible if he's able to do so, yeah.
Okay, because as you know, I have conversations with Matt Slick on his podcast.
Which are irrelevant to this one.
He said it is absurd for us Catholics to believe that God is above the laws of the universe, and that he said that he's subject to the laws of the universe, the logical laws of the universe, because let me remember how he said it. He said the square circle is a logically absurd concept, and it violates. God cannot violate his own nature, and by making a round square, he's violating his own nature.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I don't care.
But you don't agree that God would be violating his own nature by doing that?
Correct,
right?
And I've been kicked out of a room from because of Matt Slick. So I mean, you keep bringing him up as if it's relevant to this discussion when you asked me a topic about this, and then like Matt Slick is just irrelevant. Matt Slick's not the Pope of anything, and neither is anyone else for that matter. So,
well, the reason I asked is because he's a Protestant and he's a Calvinist, and you're a Protestant and you're a Calvinist, and
John Calvin was a Protestant and a Calvinist. A.W. Pink was a Protestant and a Calvinist. I mean, we can go to all kinds of people. So let's focus on me and you.
No, I understand, but the thing is, it wasn't just him that I asked. It was those that was in that podcast as well. The same Google Hangouts, it was a Google Hangout, and all of them agreed with him. So I was thinking, well, this must be the prevalent view of Protestantism, I guess. That's why I came here to ask.
Have you done this in another chat rooms?
No, just you so far, because this was yesterday when this happened. And I was
how do you know that was the prevailing Protestant view if you're just only going to one chat room instead of looking up scholarly academic books from the people?
Say I knew that this was the prevalent Protestant view. I'm trying to find out if this is the prevalent Protestant view. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, there's debate on it, so it's not always it's not a narrowed down thing on which is a majority or not. There's debate on the matter from different Protestants on the subject. For example, that you have some that believe that God just simply follows through with the laws of logic and such that he is established. So that would, and to me, that's not a bad argument. That would seem to be consistent, because that's basically saying that, for another analogy could God commit murder if he so wishes to, even if it's for a just cause? And so some people could say yes on that regard, but some people could then do like what Matt Slick and others argue about the circular square argument and say that no, he can't commit murder or make that because it goes against the laws that he's established. But as far as the whole thing with me on the circular square thing, I think that if we're talking about, for example, the only thing that we're familiar with are two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes, but yet we can realize that there's actually a fourth dimensional sort of realm out there, and we actually have a grasp on one of them. I forget what the cube is called, but it's basically a cube that's a four-dimensional cube. The tesseract is what it's called. And if you look up the images, you'll see that all we have is like what we can picture visually. But when it comes to the cube itself, it'd be definitely, much more extreme than what we're able to comprehend. And we would say and think that maybe that tesseract contradicts the laws of logic, or that the uniformity of nature along those things. But however, it depends on, of course, the nature of things. So when it comes to that shape, it could be just like when we have the tesseract, there could be something like that exists. And that's why people like me can speculate and formulate that God could make this, and especially be impossible if there was already something like the tesseract that exists, that is still be able to view it as a squarish, a cube shape that manages to have more than 4 corners and 6 sides, or however you want to go about it, from the 2 to the 3-dimensional realm.
Well, now, since you brought that up, what if the tesseract does not exist? Could God still make a square circle?
Even if the tesseract doesn't exist, it's still possible.
Okay, I agree with you. We Catholics agree with you, but it seems to me to say that it violates the nature of God for God to make a square circle. He's conflating the natural laws of the universe with God's nature. Obviously, God cannot lie because God's perfect. He cannot sin. He's perfect. But that's different from violating the physical laws of the universe. And it seems like he's giving into sort of like a quasi-pantheism by conflating the laws of the universe with the nature of God.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, anyway, I just thought I'd ask you that question. Well, good. I'm glad that Protestants don't believe in that, because I figured most
there are some that do and some that don't.
Would not believe in that, but
there's some that do and some that don't.
Sure.
That's why you have to ask and make sure you understand that each Protestant is different in how they go about things, including me. So don't always assume that I'm going to agree with everything that Matt Slick. Because remember, like I said, because I disagree with the idea of the upside down cross being a cross of the devil, and then pointing out that a swastika being on my head or something like that, I say because I'm not a Buddhist, since Buddhism does actually have a before the Nazis used it, a swastika symbol for their religious worship. I was kicked out for pointing that out. So again, so just because they hold something doesn't mean I'm always going to agree with them. There are things that I disagree with people on, and there's things that they disagree with me on. When there's things we slightly agree on. So that's why, personally, I feel insulted every time you just keep mentioning his name as if like that's all you're here for, instead of actually being curious to learn or to understand certain things that you may have concerning the Bible or concerning Protestants, because even Matt Slick himself isn't that well known among the majority of Protestant scholars and apologists, for that matter. He is a guy that made a website and has his thing. He's well known on YouTube and the Google Plus community, but that's as far as you go. The popularity died down a little bit after the whole things with the Daily Shows and basically the earlier years, back when Carm kind of came out and became a thing. So again, it's not like what Matt Slick thinks is something that everybody else thinks, because you have a lot more apologists on YouTube that are bigger than him in their terms, and then you have other people as well that are even bigger apologists in general, like William Lane Craig, among various others. So again, if you want to deal with what sort of Protestants believe, ask the individual apologist without trying to go back into the history of what some of these others say. Deal with what the data is. That's just be a bit of advice I'd offer.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to not just get his opinion, but get opinions from others as well.
Right. So my advice, just don't mention his name, like conversations y'all have had on the subject. Just stick with what me and you are going to talk about on the subject. And I think that'll help out.
Oh, trust me, I don't want to promote the guy. I mean, I completely disagree with his, beliefs.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for your question there. Let's go to the next person that came in, Luna Lusterdust. Luna, what is up and how can we help you?
You invited me just in time because I just woke up from a nap.
Ah, well. How was the nap?
Weird. Again.
Well, that's what it usually is. I woke up this morning and I thought it was Sunday. So how do you think I feel with a weird nap?
Yeah. That happens to me all the time. So I know how that feels.
All right. Well, what's your question?
Let's see. I already asked the thing about love, so what do you think of Valentine's Day, since it's more like a Greek or Roman holiday other than our religion?
Well, I think Valentine's Day does actually have a Christian bringing, because there was a guy that because it's Valentine's Day, but we also hear the other term, Saint Valentine's Day. Now, you hear saint in there, what do you normally think about? You hear saint, at least. Saint is usually in reference to, like someone that's, at least in terms of the Catholic and the Eastern Orthodox perspective, been a doctorate of the church or something along those lines. And so there was a saint. There was a person that was in the early church whose name was Saint Valentine. In fact, let me see if I can actually pull up his little history thing, because they all have what is it? It's one of those websites. Ah, yes, the newadvent.org. Let's see here. He was around. Well, I can't even. They don't even have that much of an update on this thing. You'd think with an important holiday along this guy, he would have been given a decent biography of him. Okay, he was in the 3rd century. So, according to some of the data, born in the year 226, and he died in 269. And so he was Saint Valentine of Rome. So he was a Roman Christian. He was a Christian of Rome. And the day was named after him because what happened was, as far as I can recall, there was a decree from the Roman emperor who said that, soldiers, in order for them to be strong, must be single. So no marriages are to be done. None of my Roman soldiers are to be married. And so, that caused some despair. And so St. Valentine decided to, conduct these marriages, to marry these people, in secret. But apparently at some point, his secret marriage ceremony got busted. And so he was then arrested by the Roman soldier, or by the Roman soldiers, but on the order of Rome. And as he was in prison, his guard was also someone that wasn't married, and he wanted him and his wife to then be married. And so they, do the ceremony through the prison and all that kind of thing. And so when he's asked to recant and make offering of a sacrifice, because if he does the sacrifice in order to appease the governor or the general, then all is forgiven. Well, he's a Christian. He doesn't make sacrifices and holds that these people are gods or along those lines. So when he refuses, that's when he is, decapitated. But I believe that he, it was either to a church or a love letter to someone that he did love. And you know what the ending of it was? Like the whole P.S. or like truly yours or something along those lines was? It was, quote, from your Valentine. So the popular Valentine phrase, from your Valentine, was actually the last letter or the last words from this particular saint who's known for the holiday that we celebrate before his death. He wrote that before he was being sentenced to death. So yeah, there's I just thought I'd mention that that there is at least some significance in it, Christian wise anyways.
That's pretty cool. I love stories like that. Even though they're tragic and sad, it makes me feel better that people are celebrating what they represent.
Yeah.
So thank you for the answer.
Hey, no problem there. What the? Hold up a second. I gotta look. When I'm looking at this little thing here, it looks like it almost looked like a Gaia Online picture. But it's Evie of the Sea. I see in the chat says that is the most kawaii apologist I have ever seen. Well, that's a first. That's a first. Oh boy. Well, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with my life?
Keep living.
Oh, there you go. I guess I keep living. All right. Well, thank you, Evie, for that. Oh, snap! I see Lil John, not the rapper. I'm talking about like our boy John Singleton is watching. So let me see. It's been a while since I've actually messaged him on here. So let me see if hopefully this works. I'm gonna get him the link for him to come in. But yeah, it looks like we're also out of what the. Oh, don't click that first link. Click the second link. I accidentally did something. You know what? I'll actually see if I can just delete that one. And that way you don't click on the wrong link. All right, so there we go. All right, so let's take a look at some of y'all typed in the live chat. Ken Kraken, what do you think of the Sentinel versus Skylar fiction stuff on lying and deception? Well, I took a look at the video because I hadn't looked at all of it when I got into the whole thing with Skylar on Twitter, but I did notice that Skylar didn't finish it, and he's like, oh, well, because it was made by somebody else, shut off, don't deal with it. But I took a look at it, and if Skylar had actually continued, he would have actually dealt with the meat of the substance. He basically turned it off at a convenient point when it actually didn't get to explaining everything. And so I was like, wow, I wish Skylar would have dealt with this, because this makes a lot of sense. That it's deception. It's not the same thing as lying. It's just simply withholding certain information. And it's doing it in the case of a good, and the fact that the biblical verse, for example, like the thou shalt not bear false witness or any of these things, these would not be considered like for a, these were more like a judicial context in terms of that commandment towards people. And when it's come to the concept of lying and deception, in the ancient Near East, there was a distinction between the two. They don't have them mixed in the same way that we do today. And the analogy that Heiser used is like pretty much this. For a light example, you have a kid asking, let's say he's a 4 or 5 year old kid. And I say this because, I have a nephew that's actually asked this question before. Where do babies come from? Okay, so that question gets asked. You as a parent, are you going to then go, well, sit down, son or daughter. You never know what the gender of the child may be. I'm going to tell you about how the whole anatomy of human embryology works and how human body parts work and how everything of this process forms. I'm going to be this exhaustive and detailed. Really? Is this what you expect? And that, because that's basically the same thing as what he's saying, is that for God to not be deceptive or lying, then he has to explain all these things. Or you could give out parts of the truth, saying that, when mom and dad love each other, they have a kid. So there's that. Then there's the whole thing of people just simply saying something about the whole stork theory that could be debated among, but we would call that a lie. But back then they wouldn't call that a lie, just simply deception. So you have different ways that people go about with that, but they're withholding information for the most part, and that's what the concept here. Now let me go to an extremer one that Heiser pointed out. It is Nazi Germany. You are a person that is keeping Jews locked up and hidden away from the Nazis. And so as that happens, the Nazis knock on the door, says, "Excuse me, sir, are you hiding any Jews in your house?" Now, a person that wants to view God as he has to, not hold anything back, that he has to, just basically the point that Skylar tries to say, that God must be, in order for him to be truly, good, or at least according to the biblical character, is like, oh yeah, I have the Jews in my house. In fact, let me show you where they are, how many we have. That's basically it. Or the withholding information just simply says, like, I haven't seen any Jews around here recently, or I haven't. No, sir. Again, not your. It's, well, we would call that lying today, But back then, if you were to do that kind of thing in an ancient Near Eastern context, that would not be necessarily considered that. At least that's what it seemed to have been indicated from what Heiser had been telling and pointing out. So, I mean, to me, I'm still trying to look more into it as to what is being stated. But as far as like Skylar Fiction's approach, I think he should have just waited and just looked at it instead of just to me it just seemed kind of foolish and immature. So yeah. All right, so thank you for that. Ken McCracken again. What do you make of the statement of Jesus the meek will inherit the earth? Doesn't this indicate we will be on earth forever on the 2 ages view and not 1,000 years view? Well, I think that just simply means like, you know, there will be a new earth. But as far as the inherit the earth thing, you know, I don't know specific. I haven't done too much of a study on that particular phrase in the New Testament. I've been still stuck on the Old Testament and plan to do a lot of my studies in apologetics in that area. So, but as far as that idea, based on what you indicated with inherit and the similar phrase where we see inherit, like inherit the kingdom of God, it would make sense that this refers to the new earth and that we'll be on that forever, since we're going to be there if we're going to live forever in heaven, then we can also, when the judgment comes, also live forever then on the new earth. There'll be the new heaven and the new earth, and we will be given new bodies and we will reside on the new earth once everything has been fulfilled. And I mean everything. So, thank you for that. Dakota Hill, how would you guys theorize how God might accomplish his will through human free will? Well, it depends on, again, how you define human free will. If you mean humans making decisions and all that, I believe that, you know, his will is done as they make decisions, but they make decisions through his will. You know, he wills it, therefore it happens. Even though they still make the decision, of course. So let's see here. Ahmadi, let me see actually, because I know Ahmadi, and if he's, since we don't got too much people in here, and I know he sometimes seems a little quiet and reserved, I think he might be okay to invite on here. So we'll add him in. Let's see here. Anchored Alliance says, you don't like John Piper, right? Well, I actually do like him. There are some things I just disagree with him on certain aspects, but as far as John Piper, I do actually affirm some stuff that he says. I mean, he is a Calvinist, and I think he's pretty much in line with some of the Reformed soteriology of the Bible. And yes, I say Reformed soteriology of the Bible because that is what the Bible teaches, in my honest opinion. But that being said, of me being a little snarky there, oh, wow. I'm actually trying to pop in and take a look at this. Oh, I see we got Ahmadi in here. Let me just put the show in broadcasting. And so, yeah, so I'm going to take a look at this later, because I can't tell who is moderating in the thing or not, or who's who. Because one guy almost looks like he's a... Well, then again, I don't want to assume about this Civ Weber guy. So I'm not going to say anything just yet. That being said, so I think that's what all we have right now in the chat for YouTube questions. So let's go ahead and just get right back down in here. So again, first come, first served order. First, it's going to go Religious Fanboy, then to Luna, then to our friend Ahmadi Muslim. So that being said, let's go to Religious Fanboy again. Fanboy, did you find the verse, or do you have another question you want to ask?
Yeah, I found the verses. They are Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 23 and 24.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Like, those are the two specific verses, I think.
Let's see here. Did I forget if this is the verse? Did I cover this? Let me see. Stop taking screenshots, random computer. Taking screenshots of my own computer before me. Well, let's see here. All right, I did actually cover a video on Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 through 29. So if y'all do want to look into anything about that, but let's see here. Deuteronomy 20. As far as 23 to 24, if a damsel that is a virgin is be betrothed unto a husband, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, then ye shall bring them both out of the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones, that they die, the damsel because she cried not, being in the city, and the man because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife. So thou shalt put away evil from among you. So what's your question about this verse? Fanboy?
I forgot my mic was muted. But what on 24 it talked. I think 24 it talked about it being Oh, it was 25 that talked about it being like on like the countryside.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I was kind of wondering, like, city versus countryside, if that had significance. But I think I understand why it would. Because, like, in the city where it's heavily populated, she could have asked for help.
Right, and that's why the verse 25 through 27 is a situation of rape, because in fact, besides the fact that the person is trying to put her in an area where she's, unable to call for help under these sort of circumstances, with verse 25 to 27, it also uses a specific Hebrew word. I'm trying to remember what the word is used, because when it says lay with her or along those lines, Mounce's dictionary of complete expository dictionary of Old and New Testament words describes the word used as, quote, the word can describe compelling force used to overpower others, and the example it gives is, quote, the awful incident in Deuteronomy 22 verse 25. So what we're seeing here is an incident of rape that is being trying to be utilized and planned, and that's why in that verse it says, if the damsel says, unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing, there is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. For as when a man rises against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this matter. For he found her in the field, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. So the issue is then, if you find the man who is engaging with this woman, it's the man that shall die. Verse 25 says that, not the woman, because she was a victim. So this is a law that is being utilized in case of situations like this, where definitely it's the man that has to die.
Thanks.
Hey, no problem, man.
I'm curious about, because I was kind of wondering why there would be significance, but when you read it, I kind of was like, okay, I see why there would be significance.
Yeah, and if you want to, there's a video on my channel called "Does the Bible Condone Rape?" Just type that in, and it's a good video that I would recommend that goes over all this stuff in detail, from just looking at the English language in the Bible for the context surrounding it, then going into the original languages along those lines. So it is I recommend that to look into for the matter. In fact, it even goes into the Talmud concerning Deuteronomy 22 verse 28 to 29 on how that helps provide the historical context and background for this for these kinds of issues that we're dealing with. But thank you for your question. All right, let's get to Luna, the purple kitty with the moon on the heart, or not on the heart, the head. I can't speak.
To be honest, and this is a weird coincidence, I was going to ask about the same verse.
Oh.
So Fanboy stole my question.
Oh.
But I do have another question. It's okay. It's not your fault. I still got an answer either way, so that's good. But I do have another question. It has to do with clothing. You know, people think like the Bible says certain clothes are sinful to wear. And I want to know, is that really true? I personally think not really. I don't think God would care if somebody wore as something, I don't know, what I'm wearing right now, something really weird looking.
That is a good question, and I will go over, like, I'm gonna pull out the Holman's Bible Dictionary that will probably go over that in terms of like the customs and how these people kind of dressed up, as if you will. So as I pull that, I do want to point out one thing though, as I'm getting the book right now, is that back then there was one customary thing, that is that people would dress in like soft purple. Like they would dress in this nice, rich jewelry and these soft, very soft fabric. And what this indicated for some cultures in the New Testament was a sign of wealth. In other words, these were the signs of people that were prideful and greedy, essentially.
I can imagine.
Because they were just spending it, and they were basically doing that only to show off their riches and all that. But let's see here.
Sounds exactly like my uncle.
But let's see. Oh my, yeah, there, Mr. R. Dennis Cole and S. Cameron Coyle certainly made a very lengthy article in this Bible dictionary here on biblical on the clothing Bible. So let's see here. Clothing styles here. Men and women wore tunics made of linen, of wool. It is often being the Beni Hassan image from the tomb of Tumnum-Hotep in Egypt depicts full-length eunuchs. Let's see. There's festive clothing for both men and women. But the difference in appearance would have been. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. Women likewise wore inner and outer garments, but the differences in appearances must have been noticeable, since wearing the clothes of the opposite sex was strictly forbidden. So it says Deuteronomy 22 verse 5 is the text for that, and it talks about wearing the different things for those, wearing men's clothes are not for women, and women, and then men aren't wearing women's clothes, as seems to be that. But I've also heard in certain issues that's mostly was made for like men who were trying to dodge war. And it's kind of hard to indicate today with this whole thing, because in a way both men and women do today wear what would be considered men's attire. For example, pants was considered just something for men, but a lot of people want, I guarantee you, ask a man this, he's going to want and thinks that it's less sexual for a woman to wear pants instead of, for example, a dress skirt or something along those lines. I guarantee you that, unless, of course, you have like them very like long skirts, which happens if you're like in some Pentecostal circles. But as far as what I'm trying to look for here, all I'm looking at so far doesn't seem to indicate that there was anything other than what we're reading about in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5, that indicates some aspect of clothing to be sinful. So that would be the only verse that a person could really go to for that. And to me, there would have to be the understanding of why was it then condemned? Why then have that to be a thing there? And even then, to me, that's part of the Torah. That's part of the 613 commandments. And with that, there's really, again, of course, people try to say there's a difference between moral laws and all this sort of stuff when no such thing exists. And I think that if we have that part of the law no longer, applied, and certainly that's, again, Deuteronomy 22, verse 5, I don't see anywhere where Jesus or them indicated, other than, again, you have people that are cult prostitutes that are going around dressed up. They have little boys dressing up in female clothes trying to lure men to join their cult. I mean, I think that's the one aspect where definitely that would be a sinful thing. You're doing it for lust and to try to lure people. But as far as like cases where, for example, if women wearing pants, that's nothing that's really sinful, and I don't think that anything in general. I think the only thing that would be sinful would be what you intend to do with it, and that goes with anything. So, for example, clothes. If you intend to wear clothes just to, intentionally get people to lust after you, that would be sin. Then that would be sinful. But then
no way.
So that would be sinful. But then again, that just doesn't apply to clothes. That can then apply to certain video games, certain books, certain advertisements, certain action figures, certain anything really. Is if it can have an intent, if the intention of a product or device or something along the lines can be used to do a sin, to entice people to sin, then that would be certainly a sinful thing. But clothes themselves are not inherently sinful. So that's what I would say.
Alrighty. I've given up basically trying to explain things like that to people. Like certain atheists or people who don't believe in God would say, "Oh, it's ridiculous that he would moderate our clothing." And I'm like, "Since when? Since when? Tell me, like, where does it say that?" And they're like, "No, stupid Christian." And I gave up. I gave up. So thank you for saying that.
Hey, no problem, man. Oh, I see. Our favorite Hebrew Israelite is back, so we'll get.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
show me.
Zep310 saying, "You haven't answered my email, dog." Back then, there weren't a bunch of Oh, he was trying to comment on what we were talking about earlier. So he said back then there weren't a bunch of whores walking around in thongs. So
if only, really, like, were thongs even a thing back then? I don't even know.
No, I don't think so necessarily. So let me
Please
see.
show me. Do you screen share? I need to see this.
Well, it's in the live chat, and I want to do it, but first I gotta get to Ahmadi Muslim since it's his turn, and then we're gonna deal with his email. And in fact, I'll actually screen share the email that he sent. I just gotta get my email back up. But Ahmadi Muslim, welcome to the show. What is your question that you have?
Well, I didn't really have any questions. I just stopped by just to say hi and listen.
Well, thank you for stopping by, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. I got off work early tonight.
Nice. By the way, if y'all haven't checked this out, please go check out the debate that me and Ahmadi here did. It's on my channel's debate playlist. Under was Mirza Ghulam Ahmad a prophet? Where I don't think he is, but this guy here affirms that the guy Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the prophet of the Ahmadi sect of Islam, was a prophet. So I think that's the rare that a debate like that happens, especially between an Ahmadi and a Christian. So if y'all want a good resource on that from both sides, feel free to check that out. All right. So that being said, let's and I'm going to make this one, because in order to protect the email thing, I'm going to just type this out on Paint. And yeah, so let me see here. Just
do you have the same Paint program as me?
Well, that depends. Does it kind of look cheesy and old like you would have in like a high school or something like that?
Most likely.
Then probably. Man, even then, this was a big question from our buddy here. Okay, let's go 14 then. All right. All right, that should do it. So let me. By the way, whenever I mentioned our person or metal minister that's his birthday today. Apparently, he says he's turned 38 today. And admits that he is old. I'm like, hey, at least you said it. At least you're the one that said it, not me. I didn't say it. You did. So
that's not old.
Well, if I guess it depends. If he wants to view himself as old, he'll feel free to do it.
That's not old. Come on.
Well, I'm not the one saying it. He is. All right. So I just got our question there. And we're going to take a look at what he wants us to review. So let me take a look here. Because I did decide to take a look at this. So let's see here. Oh, for goodness sake. Okay. My computer is trying to attack me. All right. All right, let me go. Perfect. Now then, let me just make sure he is still watching. All right, I'm going to put that away. Okay. You Christians sure love Galatians. Okay, we're about to go into your question. You really want to just like wait until we get to the whole thing, man? All right, so here we go. Let's see. Oh, I am like messing up here on my thing. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's how much he sent us. Okay. All right, and I got the Bible software too, so we're going to go over this. First of all, here's what he said. Let's go to Romans 9. Romans 9, Romans 9, verses 5 through 8. Who are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Christ came, who is over all, God blessed forever. Amen. Not as though the word of God hath taken none effect, for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. Okay, so it says here, remember, we're going to focus on context here, and we're going to focus on each thing. For they, who are they, that are not all Israel, which are of Israel. Some people that would sound like a contradiction, right? For they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. All right? So neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. That is, they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of God, but the children of the promise are counted for the seed. So he says, let's take a look into this. It clearly says not all Israelites are God's chosen because they don't have the seed of Isaac. Well, for me, there's something else what it means by for they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. I have a different interpretation of that based on this idea of grafting, of Gentiles being grafted into the plan of salvation. But let's continue. An Israelite is one who has the seed of Abraham, but one of the nation of Israel, Judea, who is a Jew, must have the seed of Isaac. So then he says, the Israelites who are not of God's chosen are not considered Jews by God's chosen in those times, thus making the possible neither Jew nor Greek response irrelevant. Whoa, wait a second here. The Israelites who are not of God's chosen are not considered Jews by God's chosen in those times, thus making the possible neither Jew nor Greek response irrelevant. I don't see how it makes it irrelevant at all, just because there are some Jews who aren't God's certain Jews that aren't God's chosen people. So then he says, you must realize many of these Israelites were scattered throughout the nations and adopted Greek customs and languages, so they were basically non-Jew, Gentile Greeks with Abraham's seed. Well, I don't think that because they are Gentile Jews, if you will, with Abraham's seed, I don't think that means anything other than the fact that they're just that. I don't think it has anything to do with their salvation. But yeah, you do have some Jews that are like that, like Philo of Alexandria, for example, was a Jew that was pretty much this particular way. So then he says, go to Romans 11, verse 20 to 26. Well said, because of unbelief, if they were broken off, and you stand by faith, do not be haughty, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, he may not spare you either. Therefore, consider the goodness and severity of God on those who fell, severity, but toward you, goodness, if you continue in his goodness. Otherwise, you also will be cut off. And they also, if they do not continue in unbelief, will be grafted in. For God is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut off of the olive tree, which is by which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a cultivated olive tree, how much more will these who are natural branches be grafted into their own olive tree? For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. And so all Israel will be saved. Okay, there we go. So all Israel will be saved. As it is written, the deliverer will come out of Zion, and he will turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. Okay, so this is what he wants us to read. And he says, notice how it says, all Israel will be saved. Yeah. Then he says, Israel is the seed of Abraham. And just like a wild olive tree is still an olive tree, even though it isn't cultivated, an Israelite is still an Israelite, even if it isn't cultivated through Isaac's seed. Do you know what Judea is? Judea is the nation of the Jews who are God's chosen with Isaac's seed. One further proof that a Jew is only the chosen of Judea. I'll show you this. Here's the Greek word used in Galatians 3:28, Judeos, which means Jewish, Jew, Judea. Do you know what Judea is? Judea is the nation of the Jews who are God's chosen with Isaac's seed. Therefore, I have completely debunked neither Jew nor Greek. Okay, so he gives us the statement here and expects this to be like, boom, I've debunked neither Jew nor Greek, which he says that knowing then that the Bible that he is using as his authority uses neither Jew nor Greek. Galatians 3:28 that says neither Jew nor Greek. So he's saying that because of Galatians 3:28, you refute Galatians 3:28. I'm sorry, does that make a bit of sense? I mean, seriously, it says that the Greek word used is there is neither Jew, and so according to him, the word used there, Jewish Jew. Do you know what Judea is? Judea is the nation of the Jews who are God's chosen with Isaac's seed. So the idea of there is neither Jew nor Greek, what does that mean? The verse that is being utilized here, let's go to it. The verse that is, I'm going to pull it up so that way everyone can see the full verse. So we're going to go to Galatians chapter 3 and go to verse 28. And I'm going to make sure that this is in present mode so that it's bigger. There is neither Jew nor Greek. So notice it's not just Jew or Greek. And what is this before then? What is the main context that is going on before all of this? So when we go over to here, let's go. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, meaning we know of Christ because of the law, that we might be justified by faith. But after that faith has come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster. After Christ has come, we're no longer under the schoolmaster. We basically, we graduated right now, right? So then, for you are all children of God by faith in Christ Jesus. So what's this? We are what? We are all children of God by faith in Christ Jesus. For as many of you have been baptized into Christ, have been put on Christ. So no, this is written to Galatians. This is written to the Gentile and Jewish audience, if you have Jews there, in the area where the Galatians resided. Verse 28, there is neither Jew nor Greek. Now, it doesn't just say that. It says there then is neither bond nor free. So the bond right here is referring to someone that is a servant, or in this case, a slave, since there was slavery during the ancient Roman times, nor free men. So basically, there is neither a Jew or Greek, a slave or a free individual. There is neither male or female. Okay, so wait, what's this? Male or female? So it says this in what context? Because, quote, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. So it doesn't say, oh, Jews, they don't exist. Greeks, they don't exist. It says that there is a distinct unity. There's still a peculiar identity of these individuals, but in Christ, there is no separation of salvation. Because if we go over then to, remember, he keeps quoting from Romans and all these passages in Romans 9 and Romans 11. What does Romans 1 say? In Romans 1, verse 16, Paul says, for I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth. And then what does it say? To the Jew first, and also to the Greek. So right here we have it, that it says that to the Jew first and then to the Greek, there is salvation right there for not just the Jews, you know, fake black Jewish Israelites, not just for y'all, it's also for the Gentiles, for the non-Jews. So in other words, if your theology is true about y'all being these supposed Israelites, then that's not only applies to y'all, but it applies to the Gentiles as well. So anyone that believeth is saved according to Paul, according to the same book that you cited to try to prove your case. Congratulations, in the words of DJ Khaled, you just schooled yourself.
You did destroy that. I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Well, I mean, that's easy to go to these guys when they pull up these verses and they put things out of context, which is what the Black Hebrew Israelites are usually known for doing when they try to go into these kinds of things, especially by the whole thing of saying that, you know, you have like that only the Jews will be saved, or any of their other kinds of weird, strange theologies. So as far as what he's sent us, he doesn't, if he's going to literally say, and I'm going to pull up the letter again from him, if he's going to say at this very end, on the last line, therefore I have completely debunked neither Jew nor Greek, but yet he's going to show these verses as if he believes that's the case. I mean, sorry, I don't know what to say to you. Read the part. Okay, now he's saying read the part what I said about the branches. Yeah, the branches, like the branches of us being grafted in to Israel, where it says that basically Gentiles are then grafted onto the branches, and therefore the Gentiles then that are part of the church are Israel by that definition that is being utilized here. In fact, I can even show a verse about that later on, but of course, we'll go into it with what he said about Romans 11. So let's see what he says here. Okay, where did I I literally just put the question away. So let me just pull it back up. But you might want to explain what you're talking about then, if you're saying that I was misunderstanding you, my friend, because you say I don't get the point. Say you have it all wrong. The Gentiles are the descendants of Isaac's brothers. Okay, so if that's the case, we're grafted contrary to nature into a cultivated olive tree. How much more will these who are natural branches? Okay, so if you're saying that the Gentiles are the children then, or the seed of Isaac then, and based off of that, it says that all Israel will be saved. And this does indicate in the entirety of Romans 11 that they're being grafted onto it. Again, you're just proving that not that they're then the church, the Gentiles are being considered Israel, and therefore are able to be saved in the same way that someone that is, a regular Israelite, like a Jew of, the tribe of Judea, will be like. So in other words, a Gentile like me is saved in the same way that a Jew is saved. You did not say the seed of Isaac are the Gentiles. Oh, wait. So wait, then what? Okay, then it says the Gentiles are the descendants of Isaac's brothers. Okay, then whatever you want to go with it on, then. You have no clue what you're talking about. You're a heathen, not a Gentile. Actually, I am a Gentile. Sorry.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the thing. They claim this secret dictionary knowledge of certain things, and that's actually, you know what? Let's go to a source here. He wants to say, go to the Greek in one area. Okay, let's do the same thing here. Let's look up the word Gentile here in my in the Holman Bible Illustrated Dictionary, and let's go to. Of course, we don't know what kind, because it's been a while since I've heard. Oh, there's that good old Edomite poisoning. Let's see here what we have on the term Gentile. See, Gentiles. People who are not part of God's chosen family at birth and thus can be considered pagans, though not synonymous in English. Gentiles, nations, pagans, and heathens are variants chosen by translators to render goyim in Hebrew and ethnoi in Greek. Gentile and nation suggest race or territory, while pagans and heathen suggest religion. So if you're going to use the term that I am a heathen, then you're indicating religion, not race. Whereas a Gentile, or in this particular case, as the thing suggested, Gentile and nation suggest race or territory. So my race would be Gentile. And so as far as the concept of the calling me a heathen, that suggests religion instead of race. So understand your context there. And so, in fact, there's actually a lot that it goes on to here in this article about, like, for example, the doctrine of election, such as what the Black Hebrew Israelites do affirm. The doctrine of election in which Israel became a holy nation, Exodus 19:6 and Leviticus 19:2, among the nations by the covenant at Sinai draws attention to the fact that no other nation has such a God or such laws. The writer of Deuteronomy forbade communion with the nations. The Old Testament noted the filthy ways and worship abominations of the nations. So that's Old Testament, of course, though. But then by the time we get here, we go to, in the apostolic preaching, the promise of Abraham, Genesis 12:3 and 18:18, found fulfillment, Galatians 3:8. Though in times past the Gentiles had been without God, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 12 through 22. God in Christ broke through all boundaries. Paul sent to preach among the Gentiles, Acts 9:15 and 22:21 and 26:17 and Galatians 1:16 and Galatians 2:9. Endured many dangers, 2 Corinthians 11:26. When rejected in the synagogues, he turned to the Gentiles, Acts 13:46, Acts 18:6, and Acts 18:28. Understanding his work in light of Old Testament predictions, and of course he goes on and on and on. But the point is that the Gentiles are a race of people, and if you read and understand it, it's a non-Jewish, a non-Israelite individual. So in other words, someone that was not of the 12 tribes. So, we've dealt with your question, we've dealt with your comments, and needless to say, sir, the idea that you're trying to address whatever it seems to be, since it seems to at this point be changing, the point is that in order for you to refute this idea there's neither Jew nor Greek, you have to then refute the entire Bible that you even quote yourself. And that seems that you believe in. So if you're saying neither Jew nor Greek, sorry, you just then destroy the concept of neither Jew nor Greek. That is in the Bible. And I'm even using the King James, as most of y'all are King James onlyist individuals. So it doesn't matter whether someone is descended from Isaac or not. The point is, to anyone that believeth, let's go to Galatians 3:28. So it doesn't matter about who your seed is concerning salvation. According to Galatians chapter 3, and if we go over here, for you are all the children of God by faith in Christ Jesus. So we're children of God by faith in Christ Jesus. And then when you quoted Romans, what does it say in Romans 1:16? It says, it is the power of God unto salvation, that is the gospel, unto salvation to everyone that believeth. And then not just that, let's go to more of the Bible that you supposedly love. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth, meaning whoever believes, whoever puts his faith and trust in Christ, whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So if you believe, whoever believes, pas hos pistuon, that is the term, meaning the believing ones, those who believe, and it doesn't just indicate of Israel in this, but whoever believes shall be saved. And especially this applies in the context of the cosmos, which applies to not just Jews, but Jews and Gentiles. So, you have to keep in mind what the whole Bible says. And that's why that after going through all of this in general, yes, I do agree that the word cosmos is applied to Israel, but it doesn't just apply there of Israel. So, in fact, that's the thing. We're going to go to, because you keep saying, because one word uses it, that means this. Well, by that logic, because in one context, a word means And by the way, I just want to point this out. While I notice it, I noticed the villainous hoodie that you have, Luna. I just wanted to point that out. It's been a while since I've seen that show. But what was the guy's name? It is I, Black Hat here. Oh my goodness, that was a shit. That was a show. All right, so what is it? Isaiah 45 verse 17. He says. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. You shall not be ashamed nor confounded, you shall not be ashamed nor confounded world without end. So again, we have here, this is the Hebrew scriptures, but he's referring to the Septuagint that would use cosmos. But let's go back to that and look at the definitions in that context that applied to it. So let's go to John 3:16, pull up cosmos on there. Now we have only two definitions here: the orderly arrangement, decoration, or the world including its inhabitants. Now, if you were to go to, however, and this is where it gets complicated, the Thayer's Greek lexicon, you actually have, like, say, about 8 definitions for that one word. In other words, the word that applies to several different contexts. The word is cosmos, and let's see here, it can mean the arrangement of constitution, the ornaments or decorations of general things, the world, the universe, meaning the literal planet we sit on, the earth itself, the inhabitants of the world, and let's see, the ungodly multitude, like the world, do not follow after the ways of the world. So if that's the case, if we're going to say that, well, because one time it means that means we read that into John 3:16 or anywhere that means world, then says, do not follow the ways of the world. Do not follow the ways of Israel. You contradict yourself once you start to do that. What's next on the definitions? Because they're still going. Worldly affairs. Any aggregate or general collection of particulars of any sort. And of course, let's see. I don't see it here. But I'm pretty sure that would also then include Isaiah 45, because then that would go about the particular Israelites. But yeah, you have 8 definitions for the word cosmos, and you have the context. And in fact, just to make sure that he knows I'm not lying. And folks, I promise you, this is the last we deal with the subject, because I know some of y'all have questions and we want to get to some of y'all. But I do want to just put this in the case. Here it is, cosmos. In Thayer's Greek lexicon, we have this. Number 1, an apt and harmonious arrangement or constitution. Ornament, decoration, adornment. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3. Genesis 2:1, Deuteronomy, and all these other places here. The world, universe, meaning the general world, as is in Acts 17:24, Romans 4:13, 1 Corinthians 8:4, Philippians 2:15. And we can keep going. Circle of the earth, or the earth itself. Mark 16:15, John 12:25, blah, 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 blah. And of course, again, I'm just going to point these out so people can pause and look at it later. The inhabitants of the world. 1 Corinthians 4:9, Matthew 13:38, Mark 14:9. And so, sorry to do this again, but the sound. Wow, that's a lot. The ungodly multitude. The whole mass of men alienated from God and therefore hostile to the cause of Christ. John 7:7, John 14:27, 1 Corinthians 1:21, 1 Corinthians 6:2, 1 Corinthians 11:32, 2 Corinthians 7:10. Worldly affairs, the aggregate of things earthly, the whole circle of earthly goods, endowments, riches, advantages, pleasures, which, although hollow and frail and fleeting, stir desire, seduced from God, and are obstacles to the cause of Christ. Galatians 6:14, 1 John 2:16, 1 John 3:17, John 18:36, 1 John 2:16, Matthew 16:26, Mark 8:36, Luke 9:25, and guess what? Any aggregate or general collection of particulars of any sort. English, a world of curses, Shakespeare. And then the sum of all iniquities, James 3:6. Statement due to the Alexandrian translators, Proverbs 17:6. Among the New Testament writers, no one uses cosmos often than John. It occurs in Mark 3 times. So it just mentions that John uses the word cosmos more than anybody. So that would be the best place to go to see the application and this variety of of meanings that is utilized by Cosmos, because John's the one person that utilizes that word the most in his writings, in the epistles and in his gospel. So, again, there are multiple definitions. Therefore, we can't just limit it down. You said, you're lucky I'm not calling in. I would cut you up, Esau. Oh, here we go. Well, that's the thing, though. I don't think that you would cut me up. In fact, I dare you. I dare you to wait for the after show. I'll give you the link. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get my email on standby so that as soon as we go off, I give you the email, and you can therefore, in front of some of these guys that are in here, quote unquote, cut me up. I dare you. So
Guess I'll die.
Yeah, like that meme. So yeah, so come in and see what happens. And now you're changing the topic. See, this is why we're done here at the moment. I'm going to move on to other people, because he says, read Deuteronomy 28:59 through 62. That applies to Native Americans who are Israelites. The quote unquote curses of Deuteronomy 28 do not apply to these quote unquote Israelites that are just fake for the most part. They're just people that want to feel like they're in there. And I can prove that too. But again, we're going to other people. So let's see. All right. So if y'all, by the way, since I've seen that he's been like blasting the place with a bunch of stuff, if y'all have a question that are in the live chat and y'all want to have that repeated, so that way I can actually see it, feel free to send that there so that way I can actually take a look at it. So until then, let me see. Do we have any more in the show questions? Show question. One guy at least asks, what we miss out on in life, will we have in heaven? Well, like I've said to the other one that you asked about, you know, will we have like cars and airplanes and TVs and such? Personally, I don't think we will have those things. But as far as like what we will experience in heaven, no one can really actually comment other than what is in the Bible. And that says that, you know, there will be no sorrow, and that it'll be an eternity, and that we won't even be there that long in heaven, and that we will, you know, live on the new earth. And we don't know what that will even hold for us. So
are we even supposed to know that? I mean, we're supposed to find out in the end, really. I mean,
right,
no
exactly.
spoilers or anything.
Yeah, right. Like it's kind of like, you know, the like when Ruby has an episode that's coming up, and I don't want people spoiling it. You know, just I get it, you watch it on Rooster Teeth first. I want you to just shut up though until it comes out. Yes. Like the regular scrub that I am, that I have to wait a week compared to y'all. So, I mean, yeah. But speaking of which, Ruby is a good show. Someone pointed out that I really could have ended him with Galatians 3:16. Let me take a look there real quick, and then we're going to go to a religious fanboy, since we ran out of the Discord questions. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ, which according to what was read earlier from Galatians 3, from that, and we then go to, for you are all the children of God by faith in Christ Jesus. That would definitely make some sense there at that point. So, that being said, religious fanboy, it is your turn with a question. And I need to hurry up and check on, because I forgot to get him the link. And he is ready. So I'm going to give Ave the link so he can come in.
I was just wondering, is Bible Hub, like, is that free to use, or do you need... It is?
Well, Bible Hub, that's a website, so yeah, it's free to use. All you got to do is just go to the website and you can utilize its stuff.
Thanks, because I was curious, because I would like to be able to like study read the Bible in English and in Hebrew at the same time, just to kind of like understand it better on that level.
Mm-hmm. And the interlinear section will definitely help out with that. But keep in mind that what you'll have to do is like click on the numbers that is above the Hebrew and the Greek words. That gives you the access then to the lexicon. So that gives you a helper to understand these words better. But if you also can look up those numbers there and access other lexicons, say at your local library or at a bookstore that has some of these lexicons, then it's easy definitely to look on these more exhaustive sources, because Thayer's and Brown Driver Briggs that they use online are outdated. That's why they're able to utilize them on the website for free, because their copyright and all that isn't really utilized. It's already out of date, but it's still pretty good to use for someone that's like a basic level on that.
Thanks.
Hey, no problem, man. Also, just want to say this while someone's in here. I'm going to eat all the candy corn in the entire world.
Woof, woof. Yeah, you like candy corn.
Arf.
Well,
hello. Hi, everyone. What's up?
Not much, man.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Right. Who is this individual in that amazing hoodie?
That would be Luna.
Oh my goodness! Yay! Oh my good! Wow. So we're all basically furries here, except for a religious fanboy. I don't know about him. I don't
Give him a week.
Give him a week, right? One of us.
One of us. One of us.
Oh my God. All right. Well. Oh, it's so nice to be here. Yeah, I tried to get into the stream earlier. You were sending me some stuff, and yep, here I am. Hope y'all are having a great night.
Yep, having a good night. So
awesome.
But we will get to you in a second, because I do want to also ask you a couple of things about how your previous stream went. But until then, I want to get to Luna, since it's her turn for the question.
Sure.
I just hope because she's got that hoodie on, I hope she doesn't act like the character that the show comes from with that, and either two things: one, just like cause some crazy chaos and disaster, or two, if I end up having to be Black Cat, then that would just be an interesting show at that point. But that being said, continue onward.
I just got the question in my head, so if I word it kind of weird, I'm sorry. Well, since I have weird dreams sometimes, especially if I sleep for hours, is there any sort of scripture in the Bible, any Bible, that describes what these creatures look like from hell or something? I don't know what these evil beings look like.
So you're saying about certain things in the dreams?
No, just I'm just sorry for wording this weird. In the Bible, they do mention of the devil and his worshippers, and I was just wondering, do they ever describe what they look like?
The devil and his worship as well. As far as descriptions of the devil, let's see here. I think there would definitely be like slight depictions of the devil. Like they do talk about his sort of nakash presentation that he has. But as far as his worshippers, I don't think we really have much of a description on those. So at the best, I can at least try to explain what, at least, for example, in Genesis, which is we have the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent that was there. When the thing is that I found out that it's not taking the form of like the serpent and the snake, like a regular like snake that's just slithering around and says, "Yo, what's up? You want to try this fruit?" But rather it's sort of a semi-serpentine divine being known as a nakash, that the Hebrew means snake in the noun form, deceive in the verb, and its adjective is shining one. So with all these, then you get what is speculated to be, this is one depiction of it, and that it has 6 wings, of which it can use to hide itself, based on the usage of other verses that sort of describe this Nakash being. And there's other like discoveries we have of these sort of Nakash things in like certain archaeological digs, and even as the Jewish scholar Benjamin D. Sommer points out, that the seal portrays Yahweh symbolically as a sun disk wearing a crown, typical representation in Israelite Judean art. Yahweh is thus portrayed as a king, and surrounding him are the seraphs. So this would be God in the center, based on the depiction that they're trying to make of him being like a crown, like him being Yahweh, God the King, the Lord, our God, the King, and around him being as basically as guards, as high-ranked angels, are the seraphim, the seraphs. So it says the text on this seal, and then it's highlighting these. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 on different directions here. States it belonged to a courtier of King Azaz named Ashna. In light of the similarity between the seal and Isaiah 6, it is worth noting that Jerusalem in the 8th century was still a very small town. So we have here that, and that's what we're seeing here within these, little snake-like things here, that they are representing the seraphim, which are basically, and here's another depiction, a serpentine-looking sort of angel. So it sounds ridiculous. Sounds like something you'd hear out of a strange movie, but that's what we kind of have. And this would be essentially the form of what we call the devil in Genesis. When he's coming up to Adam and Eve, this was essentially his appearance. Not saying that this is like word for word accurate, since we have that and then we have this one, but that's kind of the gist of what we're getting. And remember that also others have talked about a similar thought of this, of like in the Epic of Gilgamesh, you have a similar thing there. But that's ultimately what we're dealing with, based on the ancient Near Eastern context and understanding the depiction of these beings, is that they are a sort of serpentine angelic being that is part of the seraphim, that are part of the high ranking of angels. Not just your basic angels, but your special angels. And this was the ranking of the devil before his fall from grace.
All right, that explains somewhat. But thank you for your answer.
All right, thank you. All right. So hopefully he actually stays, because he says that he wants the link, and I said, you gotta wait till the show's over and we'll do this. And he says, I will prove to you the Israelites are black. And I'm like, all right, let's do that, and we'll see what happens. I can't wait to be proven this idea.
Yeah,
right.
They're not.
Yay!
But okay.
All right, so let's go ahead then and go to Ave. By the way, we have about an hour and 20 minutes left. So in fact, even if we don't get much more questions, I'll end it early just so we can give Mr. Zep310 the link to come in. So that being said, Ave, go ahead with your question.
Oh, right. Well, didn't you say that you had some questions for me, or do you want to save that for later?
Well, just that, how did the stream go?
Oh, it went very well. For those of you listening and don't know, I co-host a furry podcast, and we talked about all kinds of stuff, especially concerning copyright laws and the new mascot for a Belarusian team. Which is, of course, a furry. So,
well, yeah. What can you say?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. So, it went very well, I would say. And yes, my question for you is actually something that I heard you talk about earlier today on the stream, and I was very curious because you mentioned something about clothing, or I think it was actually Luna's question.
Yeah.
Regarding like if clothing was sinful, and then you mentioned something regarding the certain types of cults would use like young boys, like children, dress them up as females and try to entice males. Now,
right.
I'm wondering, are trans or drag kid shows that go on today, are those satanic?
Well, I wouldn't say that like they're satanic in like their intention that they're doing, and what I believe that they're doing though is indeed sort of sinful and wicked.
I
Because,
mean,
for example, you have the recent boy that got into the news, the 10 or 11-year-old, and what had come out recently is that they discovered that apparently, and of course, with the mom's or whoever is the parents' consent, uh, decided to get this kid to model with a naked adult man or woman or whatever you want to call it because there was another trans person, whatever you want to have the pronouns called. But either way, let's just say this: a little kid and a full-grown adult were seen naked and were modeling naked together for some sort of picture. And this kid's going on to what, like, I heard recently it was the Good Morning America show that he was recently on.
Not child abuse, though.
It
has to be.
But you have to consider, Abe, we're living in a progressive society where we must learn to accept new things that are coming.
I don't accept that. I also don't accept. No, I thought you were going to mention the story of the 11-year-old boy who dressed in drag and was stripping at a gay bar.
That's the same one.
No. He's not, though. He's different. These are two different kids.
Oh, wow. Why is it both 11 then? What the heck is up with that age?
One of them was Desmond is awesome or something. But these were two different situations. One of them posed with a naked man or a half woman or whatever the heck you want to call him, or it, I don't know. And then there was another one of this little boy dressed as a girl dancing around on stage as gay men in like their 50s were throwing dollar bills at him. What the heck? Like, how is this not?
Wait,
evil?
What?
Yes. Yeah, this was a thing.
I unfortunately do remember we actually did kind of, though we didn't show the pictures, we did cover that in at the local news station.
Don't show pictures, please.
Won't show it. I don't want to. That'd be way too disturbing for the audience.
I think this is evil. This is not progressive. This is just disgusting and evil.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to clothing, I mean, you can't dress up little kids in like sexually provocative clothes to entice gay men. That's what's happening right now. And our media, like you said, Reformed, is promoting this.
Well, depends. We have some of the media that does, but back in our medium, like the local news I work at, as soon as they're reading the story, remember, we're taking it on a neutral say. We ain't taking anybody's perspective. We're just telling what the facts and the data are. And oh my goodness, I felt so bad for her. The Fox anchor that was reading that, I was behind the camera, so I can see her reaction when the video goes up and she still has to read the stuff and see the images show up on the screen. She was cringing badly, and it did her best to remain sounding calm and collective and professional, but her face was that of horror, having to at least read that stuff while then looking at the images that, oh my goodness, this is a boy that is going around with all this drag stuff and then does this on the side.
Yeah, this is not progressive. This is brainwashing children to sexualize them for other people's entertainment. That's what's happening here.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that we got onto one group like NAMBLA for trying to endorse that kind of stuff.
Oh my god. Oh, no.
I remember that episode of South Park where NAMBLA was mentioned, and what was it that the group, there was a group that this old man invited the South Park kids to check out, and that unfortunately there were two names, there were two groups that had the NAMBLA thing, and NAMBLA of course has the North American Man Boy Love Association. That's what the NAMBLA thing is today.
Oh no!
Yeah, folks. I'm sorry, but there is an actual group that exists in North America that tries to act like the same LGBT advocacy with protests and says that we exist and we have a voice and we need to be heard. But
you're serious?
Yes, there's literally a group that exists that promotes this stuff like in an advocacy, right? Saying pedophile rights.
So these are the same guys that want to add the acronym like LGBTQIA, whatever the fuck, and then add the word or the letter P to the end for pedosexual. Is that
Now
what they want to do?
that image actually was a trolling thing from a 4chan group, but there are actually people that, though they don't use that phrase, they do say sort of like that kind of thing. That again, what Nambla Doris is saying, that pedophilia is an orientation, and there are unfortunately people that are advocating and endorsing that. But as I was pointing out in the episode, to try to make things a little funny, the Nambla that the boys were told to join, that they mistook for, wasn't the National the North American Man Boy Love Association, but the North American Marlon Brando lookalikes.
Oh, that's just so sick. I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I tried to add the humor there with the other thing in the episode, but yeah, like Nambla, I thought it was just a thing that existed on South Park, but when I looked it up, there was even like a thing where they had an FBI undercover agent infiltrating that, and he was scarred with like what they did. Like they go in secret in their homes at meetups, and they talk about the dates they had with these kids that they lure on the internet, and they just talk about things they want to do. But again, with what we talk about with the two kids that are going around with this, what this just shows is, and I'm not saying this because of anything of like what the stereotype thing is on homosexuality these days, but the issue of just what Sodom was a city of total, like letting loose the restrictions on the depravity of man. And when we have these certain individuals, this is their depravity being let loose to its extreme, that you're going to have them not just doing small acts, but then it's getting to the point where you have to start to question what's going on in America. And not just in America. That's we're having just dealing with this with those instances in America. But imagine what's going on. I believe it was in Germany, for example. There's a man who wants to, well, this is not as bad, but he's like utilizing that argument of like the transgender saying that I feel I'm a man in a woman's body. Someone said, I'm 55 years old, but I feel like I'm actually a 30-year-old in a 55-year-old's body.
Oh,
and people,
I think
shockingly,
I think you're a little bit off about that. There was a guy who said he was 6 years old, but he was like a middle-aged man.
Oh no, that's in America, and that was
that's America. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I remember that was a man that first said that, you know, I'm a transgendered woman, like he trying to identify as a woman, but after that one, then decided to add that actually is a 6-year-old and wishes to be treated like a 6-year-old, so plays with dolls and.
Wait, I know what you're talking about. I heard this a long time ago, and I pushed it out of my mind.
Oh, thank goodness you did. But this is the problem.
But shame on us for bringing it back.
Everything. If you're too tolerant and you accept everything, then there are no morals. There are no rules. Right. And stuff like this is allowed to happen, which actually hurts people. Mm-hmm. And it's dangerous, I think.
Jesus is Lord in the chat says, I identify as Bill Gates. Well, if you do, sir, if that's true, can I have some money? Because I could use some to help out with a washing machine, as well as a trip to a couple of anime conventions in the future.
It's funny. On the podcast that I was just on earlier today, I said I didn't want to identify as an Apache attack helicopter because, you know, the Army might recruit me.
Oh boy, yep. There's the thing there. They would definitely want to recruit you if you were an Apache attack. I don't know why people try to go with. Personally, if I would to be identifying as anything, I would want to identify as a maned wolf, because then at that point you can still be confused. Because are you a fox? Are you a wolf? Who knows? Technically, you're not by the species thing, but you look like either one of them.
Yeah, I just identify as a guy. So
no, I identify as a bro.
Sorry, I'm not progressive enough for that.
Well, you're not progressive enough for bro? Bro, what what's up with that, bro?
I guess I'm not woke enough. I don't know.
Wait, what the heck? Someone named YouTube fan in the now everyone's jumping on the whole Bill Gates thing. It's like saying,
All right.
Sister
Well,
Hipster says, "Pay my bills."
Well, thank you for answering that.
No problem, man.
That was a very good conversation.
Well, thank you. Oh, we gotta plug the laptop here. Give it some break from the energy. Let's see. YouTube fan 11 says, if you're Christian, can you still watch, play, and enjoy your favorite things and hobbies despite some having blood and gore, foul language, or nudity? Good question, actually. It depends.
Why is this a question? Didn't you answer this like millions of times?
True. I have. In fact, there's actually, well, I did even cover like one time of the have a video dedicated to it on anime, or just shows in general. So like, but to kind of just briefly answer this quickly, Romans 14 is where you want to go if you want definitely a good exhaustive answer on this. But it just basically means that, you know, it depends on what weakens you. If you feel like you can't handle the blood or the gore or foul language or nudity, if you have like that sort of self-conscious like feeling that, you know, it bothers you or it troubles you, then, you know, it's not for you. It just, because if it becomes a stumbling block, then that's problematic. But if you can handle it, then sure, go through with it and watch the stuff, as long as it's, of course, you know, not contradictory to the Word of God. So, for example, like me and Beckel had started watching Full Metal Alchemist at some point in our lives. I continued watching it, but he stopped because at some point in, I think, the second season, there was a girl or something that was able to, you know, transmutate without a transmutation circle, like drawing or any of that, kind of like how Ed does, and the transmutation circle forms underneath her, and it looked like a pentagram. And so when you hear pentagram, you normally think like, you know, Satan and blah, blah, that. And so that just personally didn't feel okay for him. But he says, while that happens, he doesn't mind other people watching it, like me or anyone else to do that. Because it's, again, up to the individual and what they can handle. So again, if you want to learn more about it, I would recommend read Romans 14. And I think we watched the original because Brotherhood wasn't exactly in the seasons. Like, because that's like, what, 48 episodes. So it's not like that long as like how the original one turned out. So, but yeah. And, oh my God, I'm disturbed by memes. I see oh my goodness, I don't even know how to describe this. It's a pic, you know, that whole like the girl walking away, guy looks over as the girlfriend looks at the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently Elon Musk got replied a meme where it's PewDiePie as the girl that's walking in the red shirt, and it's and the caption is hosting meme review. Then Elon Musk is the guy looking over, and then the girl that's looking at the dude is colonizing Mars.
Well, do you know why that meme exists? Because Elon Musk just bought stankmeme.com.
Oh my goodness.
He did, like, this week. He literally just bought that site.
He is like just getting everything at this point. Like,
yeah, he's got his fingers in a lot of pies. Yeah. That's for sure.
I'm so, okay then. Fingers and pies. All right.
Yeah, it's an expression, you know, whatever.
As long as we
it's a meme that Elon Musk now owns.
There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, since we're just gonna at some point wrap it up in a bit. Send the link to Zep and see what happens here. But hopefully, you know, that and we're sending both of the links because I know that since he's probably not used to being on here, he's not used to everything. But I will be asking, especially for like Luna, who I think is familiar with like the Hangouts in general and familiar with the concept of sniping, that if he tries anything, you know, feel free. If he looks like he's going to try anything, you know how to take him and get him out of the room. But that being said, We're going to see how this turns out. So the link has been sent. Zep, if you're ready to come in. Now, that being said, let's go back. Let's just restart the line then until he gets in here. Religious fanboy, do you got a question?
I was just curious, have you guys seen the show Voltron?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I know it.
You're talking about the Netflix version, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't spoil anything, by the way. I haven't seen the final season, and if you spoil it, I will hunt you.
I'm still on season 6.
All right. As long as we're on the same page. Was that all your question?
I couldn't think of like a deeper question right now.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, man. Whatever floats your boat. All right. Well, thank you for your question there. All right, Luna.
Are you sure inviting that guy is a good idea? I personally think this will be hilarious, but I don't want you to get sniped. So,
Well, we'll
are you
see.
sure this is a good idea?
We'll see what happens.
I'ma cut you.
Nah, they shouted a lot more than that, and I wonder what camp he's a part of. So that's what we'll see.
Crazy camp.
Huh?
Crazy camp.
Well, GMS would certainly be crazy camp, because that's the one that believes that they'll be having that in the kingdom of heaven, they'll be having sex with women as young as 12 years old.
Ew.
Yeah, that's GMS.
Okay. Well, then.
You've heard this multiple times, Avon. You're just now being shocked.
I'm always shocked.
Oh, I sent you the link, Zep. What the heck are you talking about? Check your email. The one that says what? Let me see if I can. Well, apparently that's what you're talking about. Something 1998. So your email, I sent it to you. Check either your inbox or your junk mail, because for some reason sometimes it goes there. There will be a camera thing that says to turn your camera on or off, and either way, by the time you get in here, you're always your thing will be shut off. You like my cameraman's on, so it always hides the guests, and I'll broadcast you, meaning let people see at least your icon whenever you prepare yourself. So I'll guide you if you just get in here. So, yeah. So just click the link and then come on in. And I ain't telling you what snipe means. That means you'll try to do it, and I'm not dealing with that.
Oh, does anybody know how to pronounce this? I think it's like Puchow or something.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Puchow.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right, because these things are delicious.
Oh.
It's probably Puchow.
Yeah. And it looks delicious. What is that? Japanese candy? Korean candy?
Yes, very good Japanese candy. Way better than Haichu, in my opinion.
There we go.
I love me some Puchow.
Boy. All right. So was that all of your questions, asking if that was a good idea or not to invite them in?
Yeah, because I have a little bit of anxiety, but most of this is just giddy, I want to see this happen sort of emotion.
Well, I think an open discussion would be very interesting. So let's hope.
It's not the first time I've talked to a quote unquote Black Hebrew Israelite. I've debated one on the law. Matt Thomas was his name, and that debate's able to be seen on my playlist. And then I'm sure Luna knows who I'm talking about next. Arcane Logos, who became a quote unquote Black Hebrew Israelite individual. He was we had a discussion a while back on this, and he keeps trying to going on and on and on about this whole stuff, even though I showed him other pictures that show where he's wrong and where his interpretations of scripture are wrong. So We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. So, wait, I got lost for a second. I was like wondering where I am at. I'm wondering if I was having brain things again. So wait, so just to clarify, Lunas, was that the only question you got?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. All right. Before, because I assume, like, if I go to Aves, it should be like, hey, what about my question? And I'm like, great. I made that mistake again. Can't let that happen. Anyways, all right, Ave, your turn to ask a question.
Oh, right. Awesome. So, we do mention, like, especially on this podcast, like a lot about like sin and stuff. But I was kind of curious, like, do you think that all sin, or I mean, does all sin trace back to the Ten Commandments, or is there another official list out there of things that we can or cannot do?
Well, as far as the 10 commandments, those aren't the only commandments. There's actually a total of 613 commandments in the Old Testament. But as far as the things of what we can and can't do, that is instituted by the commandments of Jesus. In other words, the laws of Jesus. There was a good article that was written about this from my friend Hunter Bailey from Sentinel Apologetics. And when Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commandments. And then in other issues, he says, I have come, here's a new commandment. I give you my commandments. And when he refers back to the law, he says the Father's commandments or the Torah or the law. But when he refers to his commandments, he says my commandments and the new commandments. And so these would be some of the things that the New Testament writings condemn as sinful. For example, you don't have cussing or foul language says sinful in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, there seems to be an indication of that. But then you also then go onward with, the commands of Jesus is love the Lord your God and love your enemy, or love everyone for that matter, as yourself. Follow these and you fulfill the entire Old Testament law. So you have that, but then of course you have other things that are regarded as sinful still, like idolatry, lust, because Jesus talks about committing adultery, and then this teaching carries onward with Paul by saying that whoever is an adulterer, says adulterers, those that are unrepentant and live an adulterous lifestyle, cannot inherit the kingdom of God.
Right, but all of that actually does like directly trace back to the Ten Commandments. I mean,
correct.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not murder. Things like that.
Right. So you'll find some of those that are there, but then you'll find something that is not in the Ten Commandments that does make its way into the New Testament. And in fact, there are some things in the Ten Commandments that we are told aren't applied to us, like the Sabbath, for example. To keep the Sabbath, to do so would be to rest and follow then the additional Sabbath laws in order to fully actually rest, which means you don't cook on the Saturday Sabbath. You don't, which means you can't even start your car, because in your household you're starting a fire via transmission. So therefore you are, breaking the law and starting a fire, and therefore would not be resting on the Sabbath. So you have all of these things to consider about that. And that's why Seventh-day Adventists take that conclusion, as well as Hebrew roots movement, and in these particular cases, some of the Black Hebrew Israelites, because you have some that are this strict in the thing. So yeah, like there are some things you'll find in the laws, and you'll find some things in the that in the Ten Commandments that we are definitely to follow, but then there's other things where we don't have to follow them. It all depends on what is mentioned in the New Testament.
And you're referring to the 613 commandments?
Yeah, the 613 commandments, or even just the 10 commandments, if you want to focus on just those.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that like there was a definitive, set of of things out there that could be considered possibly sinful, and if they trace back to the original 10, like that's where I'm really getting at.
Right. So that's why you'll find some that is in the New Testament that does go back to the 10 Commandments. But there are some that you can't even find in any of the 613 commandments, like the command to watch your tongue in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 4, among other verses.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very very tedious to kind of understand. I was wondering, is there like a list or something that could be more easily digestible? That can be found somewhere?
Well, there is a list of on a video that I found, and I'll send it to you. All right, so we found somebody that's saying in the chat.
Oh,
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, this individual is not. I don't know how to comment on that.
No
Yeah, 'cause
one
we saw
wants to
Z
see the
earlier.
9-centimeter hot dog.
Yeah, because I saw I gave the link to Zep, and then all of a sudden, this guy comes in who was in the chat earlier. So,
well, that's unfortunate that people don't want to be open to discussion.
So, see, if you want to actually come in, we're going to give you a few seconds. We're going to give you a count of 10. All right, there's Zep. So, I'm actually, since that's it, I'm going to remove C.
Okay.
So, Zep then is in the, at least there. So, all right, Zep, whenever you're ready, come on in. We'll be waiting for you.
I don't think he'll be coming.
Well, we'll see.
TikTok, Zep.
Yeah. So let's see here. Oh, you'll be fine. Just you won't even be clogged in, or not clogged in. What the heck am I talking about? You won't even be shown unless I broadcast you. So you'll have plenty of time to adjust your camera. Trust me.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a big deal. And if you're very worried about it, just put some duct tape over your camera. That's fine. All right.
Well, your voice come out like a microphone. I mean, I don't know. I just get in here. You can ask me these questions once you're in here. So I'm going to assume, based on what if the person's on a phone, then I can easily just tell this stuff, and we talk, and his face won't be seen by the audience unless I were to broadcast him. In fact, that's the thing. In fact, while I'll present myself to everyone, that way it doesn't even show his face.
I just wanted to mention something really quick.
Yeah.
Reformed, thank you very much for answering my question. That was very
Hey, no problem, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Because, I was so curious about that. So, yeah, thanks.
Hey, no problem, man. Okay, so apparently for safety reasons, he decided to just go ahead and tape his camera with yellow tape. Oh well, I'll at least still explain to him how this works. So,
well, he might also need a tinfoil hat.
well, we'll see what happens.
Nice.
In the meantime, I'll make sure to get the.
I mean, like, just in case, it's okay.
All right, let's see. Oh, wow. The guy, Exegetical Apologetics, who did the documentary on the on Islam. He just came out with a new video an hour ago, and my goodness, he shaved. He shaved his entire head.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so now, and his new video is a 24-minute video called "Comparing Jesus' Apostles with Muhammad's Companions." So I'm definitely going to see this.
I'll watch that later tonight.
Yeah, me too.
Right. And he's saying don't talk over him or he will get PO'd. He's a bad man. Right. So just keep that in mind. Try not to interfere or talk over him as much. We're going to try to see how well this goes. So let's see if he shows up. Okay. Still nothing. It's still waiting. All right, if he's got the jitters, then we're just gonna then do this off the live stream then. So, don't worry, y'all still be the audience that'll see it. So thank y'all for tuning in. Yeah, we didn't get much people in the live chat to just watch and check us out and ask questions, but hopefully this will happen again next week, where we'll be doing the same thing, same time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So tune in and hope to see y'all then. We'll see what happens when we deal with our friend here on a off-air private hangout. So we'll see what goes on. But until then, this has been RC Apologist.